Well, welcome back to DevCon 2021. I'm Dave McCormick, and in today's session, in this session, we're going to be talking about the new features that have been added to Alpha Anywhere since our last DevCon. There's an awful lot of new stuff that's gone into Alpha Anywhere, and Selwyn Rabens, our co-founder and president, is going to be here to show them off to you. So there's going to be cool things that maybe you haven't kept track of in the release notes or whatever, but may end up finding your way into your next Alpha Anywhere project. So let's begin. Hello, Selwyn, are you there? Or let me take you off mute first. Hello, Selwyn, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear
Fantastic.
me okay?
I can. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter so we can see your screen. And I'll let you know when that appears. And there it is. I'm looking at your PowerPoint.
Okay, so let's go here and then,
Very
okay, so
nice.
great. So, are we ready to start, Dave?
Let's get going. Yeah.
Okay, so let me start out by saying how excited I am to be here today, and I really appreciate the fact that you're all attending. I'm really looking forward to showing you what we've done in the last year and describing basically what our thinking is at Alpha and how that's going to impact you as developers going forward. So there's a lot to show now, and so I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as I can. And if you have any questions, just please let Dave know, and he'll go ahead and
Yep.
let me know
Just
about the
type
question.
those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Thanks.
So this session is about what's new in Alpha Anywhere since DevCon 2020. So since DevCon 2020, we've had 8 what I call significant releases of Alpha Anywhere, with literally hundreds of new features. So it's very difficult in this presentation to pick the ones that I want to talk about, but I've selected some of the ones that I think are the most significant features. So in terms of the major changes, we released the Community Edition this year. So the Community Edition is a free version of the Alpha Anywhere IDE, with the limitation that you can only publish applications to Alpha Cloud. We also made continued enhancements to Alpha Cloud itself. We did major enhancements to Transform. We released the Universal Installer, which is, for those of you who have used it, I think you'll all agree that it's a fantastic improvement over the old installers, because you can install any old version of Alpha or any version of Alpha Anywhere product family, which that could be the Alpha Anywhere IDE, the classic server, the IIS server, or the runtime, from a single installer, and you can install any version of that without having to go and look for different links, etc. And then, of course, we've continued to make enhancements to the Alpha Anywhere IDE and to the server. And of course, that is the main focus of today's presentation, because there'll be other presentations on Alpha Cloud enhancements and Transform enhancements. So I don't want to spend much time talking about those. So what I'd first like to do is address why we released the Community Edition. So obviously, the main reason for doing that is we'd like to attract new developers to the Alpha Anywhere franchise. And in doing so, we'd like to take the risk out of development. So you can develop applications in the Community Edition without taking any financial risk. And then once you're ready to deploy your application, then Alpha Cloud, of course, is the natural target to deploy your applications. And in doing this, we recognize that the key value proposition in using Alpha Anywhere is around deployment. Deployment is hard, and worrying about scaling and reliability and denial of service attacks and all of these things which keep DevOps people up at night is something that the Alpha Anywhere Cloud takes care of automatically. And so that's where we're putting a lot of our energy into making the deployment of applications easier and easier using Alpha Cloud. So what we're going to do in today's talk is sort of a demo of a random tour of major new features. And these features include, but are not limited to, the new live test feature, which we'll be demoing, the security framework, Genie, which we'll be demoing, data masking, which is something that is actually very useful because oftentimes we ask customers when they are reporting an issue to send us a backup of the database. And in many cases, the database itself can't be sent to us because it contains sensitive information. So data masking allows you to create a copy of your database and for certain fields to obfuscate the data in those columns. So if you have, for example, a column in your database called social security number, before you send that data to us, you might want to go and obfuscate those social security numbers and replace them with, say, random numbers. Then another feature that we added that was asked for by many developers was column data encryption. So it's certainly possible with SQL Server databases and using add-ons or to encrypt the entire database, but that involved quite a lot of effort on the part of a developer by having to go and install special versions of SQL Server, etc. So now when you define a grid or a list control, you can specify that any column in the grid or the list should be encrypted, and then in the database itself, we automatically encrypt that data. We put a lot of effort into removing our dependency on the Muni printer driver, and we now are able to produce PDFs directly without going through the Muni printer driver. The benefit of that is that PDF generation is now faster, but more importantly, going forward, that puts us in a good position for deploying Alpha Anywhere applications to containers, because containers do not allow printer drivers. We added support for Wasabi storage. So Wasabi is an alternative to S3 storage, and S3 storage has become increasingly important for Alpha Anywhere applications, especially Alpha Cloud applications, because when you upload files and images in a Alpha Cloud application, you really have to store those files in a storage location like S3, because you can't upload to a folder on the server because, first of all, you don't have write permission to folders on the server, and secondly, in an Alpha Cloud application, there's always at a minimum 2 servers in your server group, and you don't know which server in the server group is going to handle the next application. So even if you could upload to a folder, you would be uploading to a folder on, say, server 1, but the next request might come into server 2 where those uploaded files would not exist. So uploading to storage is really important, and Wasabi provides a new low-cost, high-performance alternative to S3. We did a new version of Alpha Launch, and we'll be demoing that. So Alpha Launch, as you may recall, is a really easy way of deploying mobile applications to a mobile device without having to go through the App Store. We added a feature called Run XBasic asynchronously, and that's important because oftentimes developers are putting buttons on grids and UXs that make AJAX callbacks that then run long-running XBasic code. So maybe you have a button that generates, say, a very, very long report or multiple reports. And typically, the client side waits until the XBasic completes. And if the XBasic is taking a very long time to complete, the client side might actually time out and stop listening for the response. So by being able to run XBasic asynchronously, you can kick off a long-running XBasic task, get back an ID of the job, and then periodically ask the server for the status of your long-running task. So that's a major new feature for long-running XBasic tasks. We added the ability to check if the server is available before making an AJAX callback, so that you can gracefully handle situations where the server is not available. And you can also test the network speed before making an AJAX callback. So for example, in a offline application or a mobile application, if you're going to be synchronizing a large amount of images, you don't want to do that if you're on a slow 3G connection. So you might want to test the network speed before you start synchronizing images, and only synchronize images if you have a reasonable network speed. So we've made that very easy to add those type of tests into your applications. We've continued to focus on the list control. The list control is sort of the major control type in the UX component for building both desktop and web and mobile applications. And we've continued to add features to the list control. We added the ability to nest lists within each other. So you, for example, you can have a customer list, an orders list, an order details list. And for each row in the customer list, you can nest the list of all of the orders for that customer. And then each row within the orders list, you can list all of the order details for that particular order. So that's very similar to the row expander feature that we have in the grid. And I would say that a large part of our development strategy on lists is to allow you to do in lists anything that you can do in grids. And I think we're pretty much there at this point now. So lists, the list control is at this point is an extremely rich control for building web and mobile applications. So we're going to be demoing nested lists, two-state images, which are images in the list that toggle their state with animation when you tap on them. Incremental refresh, again, is another very important part of list controls. And what incremental refresh allows you to do is refresh the data in a list, bringing down changes that were made by other users to the database without having to do a full refresh. And since incremental refresh is so important, we've put a lot of effort into making incremental refresh more efficient. And one of the ways we did this was we introduced the concept of incremental refresh using timestamp fields. So normally it's fairly server intensive to compute what has changed in the backend database when you do an incremental refresh. But if you use the timestamp option, then you can easily find out which records in the backend database have changed by just doing a query to say all records where the value in the timestamp field is new, and that is an extremely fast query. So incremental refresh using timestamp is substantially faster than the old way of doing incremental refresh. One of the most popular features in the list control has been in-place editing, and we've continued to enhance in-place editing. We've added the concept of fixed virtual columns, which we'll be demoing. So this is similar to an Excel sheet where as you scroll horizontally in an Excel sheet, certain columns remain fixed in place. So we've added that similar type of feature to the list control. In-row charts have not yet officially been released. They're in the nightly build, but the nightly build will be released officially next week, or perhaps by the end of this week. So we're very close to. So I'm adding that as a new feature. So we'll be demoing that. Custom templates is another new feature which we'll be demoing. So inside the list control and also the view box, all of the data that is displayed using templates, using our client-side templating functionality. And with client-side, with custom templates, you can create your own display formats for templates. It's a very powerful feature, and I think you'll like it when you see it. And then detail view templates. So lists with detail view are a very popular feature of Alpha, And using detail view templates, you can create highly stylized HTML content to display the data in your detail view. So you can create some really good looking detail views. We also added the ability to create user-defined custom controls. So when you're building a UX component, everybody has seen the green plus button for more controls, which defines a whole bunch of controls like the spreadsheet control and the advanced search control. So now you can create your own controls to add to that section of the list of the UX builder. We added a new viewer for PDF content. So we've got a custom PDF viewer control. We did a lot of work on SQLite incremental refresh. So in many cases, developers who are building mobile applications create a SQLite database to put on the mobile device so that they can have large amounts of data available while they're offline. But creating a very, very large SQLite database can take a fair amount of time. For example, a SQLite database can easily be, say, 200 megabytes in size. And when you want to refresh that with new data, having to recreate the entire database would be too time consuming. So we added the concept of SQLite incremental refresh. So you can then refresh the data in a SQLite database when the server data changes. You can do that now in a fraction of a second. It's a really powerful feature. We added new JavaScript charting features based on a new SVG library for charting that we developed, and Nikos will be spending quite a bit of time talking about that. Advanced image styling, we're going to be doing a demo of that. So advanced image styling was added to create images that can be, for example, have rounded borders, etc. And we did this as part of work that Bob Moore did in a tutorial that he did when he showed how you can use Alpha Anywhere to build the same app that Apple uses in their tutorial to describe how you can use Xcode to build mobile apps. So we added that. Publish static HTML pages to Alpha Cloud. This is a great way of building a mobile app or any type of app and sharing the user interface, but not the backend functionality with a prospect or a customer without having to actually publish the app to a server. So you can just publish directly to an S3 bucket directly from within Alpha Anywhere, and we'll be demoing that. Image upload to S3, we've always had that, but one of the features of image upload when you upload an image to the Alpha server is that you could create thumbnails after the image was uploaded. But when you upload it to S3, you could not create thumbnails because the data was being uploaded to S3, and in order to create a thumbnail, you would have had to use an AWS Lambda function. But now you can upload to S3 with thumbnails. The way that actually works behind the scenes is that you first upload the data to the Alpha server, the thumbnails are created there, and then the image is uploaded to S3 with the thumbnails. We added a new SQL data editor, which allows you to edit the data in any SQL table directly from within the Alpha IDE. We'll be demoing that, and then we're going to be demoing flared tabs, which is a new styling option for tabs and tab bands. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about Python integration. So right now, all server-side code in Alpha is written using XBasic, but Python has become really popular, and we're making it easier for people to write server-side code using Python. So with that, I'm going to now switch over to Alpha and actually demo some of these things that I mentioned we'll be demoing. So I'm going to just bring up Alpha Anywhere over here, and let's switch over to the demo section of the. So let's go over here to the control panel and go to DevCon 21. And Dave, just to be sure, can everyone still see my screen?
Yes, we sure
Fine right
can.
now.
We're looking at Alpha
Okay.
Anywhere, and you're coming through.
Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to demo is the new live test feature. So I want to make clear what live test is all about. So we've always had the ability in Alpha from within a builder. So for example, if I was in this builder over here, I've always been able to go and say live test or live preview, but that is just testing a single component. It's not testing your entire application. So with the new live test feature, you can now basically go here and say live test, and you can live test using either the development server or IIS or Alpha Cloud. So live testing, when you live test using the development server here, you're testing not just a single component, but you're testing the entire application. So for example, if I'm going to go here and live test this login page over there, I'll go there and live test this. So you can see it gets published now. And it brings up the, on my browser now, there's my component running. And I've in effect, so what I've done in effect is create a publishing profile and then publish that application to the local development server. But I did that with a single click, and the same thing would be true of Alpha Cloud or IIS. So live test is a great way of testing an entire application on either the development server, IIS, or Alpha Cloud. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the security framework. So one of the things that
Actually, Selin, can I just bug you with one quick question since
yeah,
we're already
sure.
right there? And that is, does XBasic debug work when you're in live test?
So XBasic debug does not currently work in live test, although you'll notice here that basically in the live test feature now, there'll be a new feature here in the next release build where you can in fact do debugging of XBasic code in live test, and the same thing will be true for debugging of IIS as well. So
Oh, that's
currently
great.
you cannot debug XBasic code running in IIS, but with this the live test feature, client-side debugging can be enabled for both Alpha, for the development server and IIS.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. So, so one of the things obviously is that we know that all developers who are building sort of real world applications have to add the security framework to their applications. So we've made it really easy to do that there with a new Genie. So I'm going to go now and create a brand new project. So I'll go here and say new project, and I'll just call it DevCon 2021 security. And I'm going to basically click on this checkbox to say that I'd like this new project to enable this security framework. So I'll go ahead there and click OK. And we're going to now create sample users and groups. So I'll say yes, go ahead. And then it's going to ask me at this point, well, what style do I want for my login component? And I can go here and say see available styles. And there's two styles that are available. One is an image on the left with the login section on the right, and the other is the image behind the login section over here. So you can choose the style that you want. So I'll go ahead here and choose image on the left. And that goes ahead and builds me a brand new project, but it's got a whole bunch of sample components that are there. And so I don't have to go and write the login component or write any of the code around turning on password reset or create new account or let's see what else you normally would do. Change password, enable two-factor authentication. That's all built for me automatically in the framework. So let's go back to my demo app here, you can see I already have the security framework turned on, and I've changed the security type to SQL database over there. So if I go here and say, show me the tables, I can see that currently I'm using a connection string called Mariah test, and here are all of my, there's my user table, etc. So if I were to go now and do a live test of this, so let's go here and do a live test of this login page. So there's our live test. I'm going to just log in as user one. And then log in. So now we've logged in, and then we can see we can now go here and we can change the password. So this is sort of scaffolding code that you can automatically add to any of your applications, and then just modify this code to change maybe the layout of these controls, etc. So I've logged in right now, but if I want to go and log out now and log in again, but this time let's say that I forgot my password, so I'll go there and I'll enter my email address and then say reset password. So this is now going to send me an email with a link in it to reset my password. And if I now go to my email over here and then do a refresh, I see there's my password reset link. I can go there now and bring up the password reset. I'll change this to Selwyn Alpha 2. Just confirm that I've typed in the same password in both cases. Reset password. And then the password was reset. So this is all now, this is again, common to many applications that developers build, but now you don't have to go write the code. You can just start with the existing framework. So this is I think this is a very important feature in Alpha, and it also represents a direction that we're going to be going in the future. We're going to be extending these scaffolding applications further and further, so that in many cases, when you build new applications, you can start with a scaffold application that really has much of the functionality that, or at least much of the boilerplate functionality that you need. So, creating new accounts or resetting passwords, which are things that you want to add to all applications, you shouldn't have to write them from scratch every time you build a new application. You should just be able to start with a scaffolding application. So we're going to focus on that. The next thing I want to talk about is Alpha Launch and the motivation behind Alpha Launch. So I'm going to go here and bring my Android device onto screen. And if we go look here, so the whole idea behind Alpha Launch is the ability to publish mobile apps, true native mobile applications that can use the camera, the file system, etc., but to be able to deploy them to your mobile applications without having to go through the App Store. So there's Alpha Launch right now, and you can see that currently installed in Alpha Launch, I have 3 apps. I have PumpJack Pro, Northwind Sample, and then this app here called Sample Picture Taker. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll run the app. So this is a really trivial app that allows me to take a picture. So I'll go there and take a picture of my desk, which is a little bit messy right now, and then say use, and then say exit. So now what I'm going to demonstrate is how easy it is to actually publish an app to Alpha Launch. So I'm going to go now and uninstall this app. So I'll go there and say manage, then I'll click on Picture Taker, and then I'll say details, and I'll say uninstall. So now I've basically uninstalled this app. I don't have that app over there. I'm going to go back into Alpha now. And we'll go over to this app here called Cordova, which is the mobile app that I'm going to be creating. And I'm going to just go here and change the button text from picture to say picture 2, and then go ahead and save it. And then I'm going to go to the web control panel now and say more alpha launch, and then publish this app that I just did to alpha launch. So go ahead and hit publish and then click OK. So this app is now being published to alpha launch. I can test that it published correctly. So it did publish correctly. And now I can go back to my mobile device over here and say add, and then say add. There's this app that I just published, the simple picture taker. Go ahead and click install. And now this app is going to be installed on the device. And again, the important thing is that it's not running. I don't have to have a connection when I load the app. I don't have to publish the app to the App Store or wait for approval from the App Store. I can just publish the app directly to Alpha Launch, and then I've got a native app running on a device, having, without having to go through any hassles of app stores, etc. So it'll just it takes a little bit longer to install on an Android device than it does on an iOS device. And that's because the file system on Android devices is not as fast as the file system on iOS devices. So we're nearly done here. And so now the app has been installed. If I were to go here and close that app down and then relaunch it, you'll see there's the app. And when I run it now, you can see it says picture 2 because that's the change that I made. So we've now shown how you can then publish an app, deploy it to a mobile device, and not worry about the app stores. So the next thing that I'd like to talk about is how you can then write applications that make AJAX callbacks and test if the server is available. So let's go over here to this component. And we can see that this component is going to make AJAX callbacks. And we've turned on check if server is available. We've turned that on, and we've said that basically allow 500 milliseconds for the server to respond. So if the server does not respond within 500 milliseconds, then we're going to assume that the server is not available, and we're going to display this message, the server is not available. So this allows you to add a level of polish to your mobile applications without having to go write any additional code. And you can also go here and perform a speed test and say that the way that we do a speed test is we send a certain amount of random data back to the server, and then we measure how long it takes for the server to receive that data. So you can decide how much data you want to send back and how long the server has to respond. So, but I'm not going to do that right now. So let's go ahead, save this, and then go over to live preview. So we can see now that the server is on. So when I make my AJAX callback here, I get my response. But if I turn the server off and then I click this button, you can see we get the server is not available. So that allows you to build, I think, a sort of a much more satisfying user experience in your mobile applications without having to write any code. And this server is not available functionality is available not only in Ajax callbacks, but also when you do list synchronization and several other places where Ajax callbacks are automatically generated by Alpha. So let's go now and talk about some of the list enhancements. So let's go. First, we'll talk about nested lists. So we'll go here and we'll run this component. So if we look at this component, we can see we have a customers list, an orders list, and an order details list. But when we run it, all we see is the customer list. But if we click on a row in the customer list, I get to see all of the orders for that customer. And then if I click on a row in the orders list, I get to see all of the order details for that particular order. So basically there are my orders. So the way that this was actually done is we took the orders list and we put it in a container called container orders. And then we took the order details list and put that in its own container. And then we go to the customers list and we said that this list has a detail view, but we didn't actually define any detail view controls. Then when we went to the detail view, we said that the detail view needs to be positioned inside the list beneath the row. And we've said that the detail view is inside container orders. So that's the container there that contains orders. And then we did a similar thing for the orders list. We embedded order details inside the orders list. So this way you can create an unlimited level of list nesting. In this case, we have list nesting going down 3 levels. So customers to order details, but we could just as easily have added an additional level of drill down. So order details could have basically had a, say, parts list or something like that. So this mirrors functionality that we have in the grid with the row expander, but it's really easy to add similar functionality now into the list. Next, I'd like to talk about, say, two-state buttons. So I'll go here and so let's just run it first and then go over to working preview here. And you can see how we've got these buttons. And if I tap on a button, you'll notice that the button changes state with animation. So the animation is the key part here. And then I've got methods to control all of the buttons in one go. So set them all on, set them all off, or set the state of an individual row. And this is all done very easily by going into the list, going to fields, going to the image, and you can see we've added an image there, and we've said that it's two-state image. And then we've specified what the image is for the second state, and whether the image should toggle on click basically, and then the rotation direction. So two-state images are a very nice sort of visual feature that make your apps look a little bit more polished. We've spoken about incremental refresh during using timestamp. I'm not going to demo that, but the next thing I'm going to demo is fixed and virtual columns. So let's go ahead and look at that. So I'll go here and just filter on fixed. And then I'll run that. So you can see here we have a list with several different columns, but everything to the left of this purple line is fixed, and everything to the right of this pink line is also fixed. And then I've got the scroller here to scroll. So watch the columns in the center here. So as I scroll, you can see the columns are changing in the center, but the fixed columns aren't changing. So this again is very much like you would see in a spreadsheet where you lock columns in place. And this is done really easily by going into the list, going to list properties, scrolling down to fixed columns over there. you can see that what we've said is that we want one column on the left to be fixed and one column on the right to be fixed. We've said we want a separator line, and we want that separator line to be that purple color. I can go there and change that color to anything that I want. So I've gone there and I've changed that color. And then we've also said that we'd like 6 columns to show in the center portion. This is the portion that scrolls. And we've specified that the way in which we are going to scroll is using a slider as opposed to a scroller. So I've got a slider there, and I'd like that slider to be either in the footer or the header. So I'll go there and click OK, and then go back to run mode. And we'll see now that I've got my slider is going to be in the header. I changed the color of that separator line, but I can still go ahead and scroll the list very easily. So the ability to put in these fixed columns is, I think, a nice enhancement to the list control, and makes the list control behave a little bit more like you would see in a spreadsheet. So next, what I'd like to do is talk about in-row charting. So let's go here and type in, and then go and run this list, and then I'll talk about how we did it. So there's my list control now. You can see that each row in the list has 3 different charts in it. And the reason that it's called in-row charting is, of course, is that the charts appear in each list row, but also that the charts are displaying data from the current row. So you can see that this gauge control over here is displaying the value in this column, 0.1 multiplied by 10. So that's 3.94. So it's displaying 39.4. And the way that this particular chart control was defined, we said that use a different color depending on the value. So because this is 39.4, the color is purple. Because this one is above 50, I think we are displaying it using green. And let's see, I guess those are the only colors that we've used. So let's go take a look now at how we did this. So if we go back to the list, you can see that this list is using some static data, which we got by just saying chart data. So there's our static data. And then what we've done is we've gone to the list of fields. So there are all the fields in the data. And then we've gone and we've said add a chart. And we've added 3 different charts. And then you can see that for the first chart, we've said that it's a pie chart. And then the second chart we've said is a gauge chart. And then the third chart is our line chart. But the important point is that if we go back to the builder here, we can see that for each chart, you need to specify what the data points are in the chart. And this is done using JavaScript, where you can reference any of the data in the list itself. So we are saying that this particular chart, that the slices, the pie slices, come from 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So that's how we got the pie to display the data from the current row. So when we go there, we see that the pie has those 4 slices there, but these slices are coming from the data in the current row. So next, what I'd like to do is talk about custom templates. So let's go here, and again, we'll go there and say templates. So if we look at the data in this list here, we can see that it's really simple. We've got basically a name and then a score. And so the score either says 50 or 200. But when we run it, what we see, we don't see 50 and 200. We actually see high risk and low risk. And the reason that we see that is because if we go here and we look at this list, the layout, you can see that for the score there, we are using a template that says score and then risk. If I were to remove that template directive over there and just go with score, I would see the actual numbers. I would see basically the 50 and the 200. So there's 50 and 200. But if I'm going to go back now and go to the list layout and then go to score and then go there, and I think that I can actually insert the template from a picker there. So we've said risk now. And then we're going to go take a look at how this risk custom template was defined. So now we see, we see high risk and low risk over there. So let's go now and take a look at how this was done. So we're going to go now to project properties, and we'll scroll down to template format directives. And you can see that we have a directive called risk and one called template 2. So in risk here, you've got JavaScript code that references data in the list. So we've said that if the number is less than 100, return high risk, and otherwise, if the number is greater than 100, return low risk. And so these templates can be used both in the list control, but also in the viewbox control. So it's a really powerful feature for creating customized formatting directives for the data in your list. So next, what I'll talk about is detail view templates. So let's go here and talk about this. So one of the things about the list is that it's really common to display lists with detail views, and typically the detail view is displayed in controls. So you can see here we have a detail view and we have two controls that are input controls. But you might want to display the detail view using some highly stylized HTML formatting over here. So you can see there now, instead of displaying the data in edit controls, we could display it in some HTML. So as I click on different rows in the list, this HTML there updates. So the way that this was done is, you can see we go to our list. We say that the detail view, we say that our list has a detail view, but then we specified that the detail view has a linked freeform control called freeform1. And then in freeform1, which we added by just going to containers and then choosing the freeform layout container over there, in this freeform, you can see we have all of the placeholders that from the list data, and we've just added them to our HTML there. So we can have any HTML that we want using some very elaborate styling. And then inside this HTML, we've got our template, and you can see that inside the template, we're using formatting directives. So in this case, we're using a built-in directive called uppercase. So we're making the city uppercase, but we could just as easily have added a formatting directive that was custom, just like I showed in the previous section. So let's go ahead now and run this. So what we see is Boston in uppercase, because our formatting directive in our template specified that we wanted to use that as uppercase. So those are some of the enhancements that we've made to the list control. Next, what I'd like to talk about is how you can create user-defined controls of your own. So if I go now to and build a brand new UX component, you'll notice that basically I can go to data controls over here, and then at the very end we have this section called more. And these are all of the controls that Alpha has added. But now what you can do is you can create your own controls and add them to this list over here. So you can see I've got a control there called DevCon, which I've added. So let's go ahead now and see. First of all, let me select this control and see what it does. It actually doesn't do very much, but the point is that it's totally custom. So I can customize and write my own control. So so there's my control, there's the builder for it. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and then I'll run it. So it's a control that basically just displays some text and an image. So let's go now and create our own custom control. And so just the point that I want to make is that custom controls are built on view boxes. So you do need to understand a little bit about how view boxes work, but let's go now back to Alpha, and we'll create a brand new brand new UX. So I'll say create a new UX component. So now I've got a blank UX, and I'm going to go there and add in a view box. And then I'll say that this view box, I want to load a template. So this is a template for a user-defined custom control. So then it's gone ahead there and done that. And now I can go here and make any changes that I want to this component. So I can go, for example, to the JavaScript and then make this value. I'll just go here and make that all uppercase, just so we make a change. Then I'm going to go ahead here and say, save this as a custom UX control. So I'll go there now, and I'll call it demo for DevCon. I'll choose an icon. So I'll go here and choose the alpha icon. And then I can define a property sheet so that when I put this control onto my UX component, I can set certain properties. So I'll go to this image over there, and I'll say that this is going to be an image picker, and this color is going to be a color picker. So I'll go ahead now, and I'll just leave the description. I can just type in some junk for the description and go ahead and click OK. So we've now created our own custom control. So now let's close this down and delete that, and then go and say add controls, and I'll search for, there's my demo for DevCon. So I've added that control. Now I'm going to go and customize it. So I'll say that I want the color to be pink, and I want to change the icon to say that icon over there. So I've changed the icon and the color and the yeah. So I'll go ahead and save this as demo 1, and then go into working preview now. And there's my custom control has been displayed. So this custom control now, you can obviously create very elaborate custom controls of your own, which can then be added to any UX component that you build. But it's just like any other control. It has a value. It has a value property. You can do get value and set value. So if I go into the console here and I say DLG1 dot set value of, and the control is called DevCon1, and set the value to hello. Actually, it wasn't called DevCon1. What did I call it? Demo 4. Okay, I'm not quite sure why that didn't work. It should have worked. Let's go here and do a get value. Okay, so the current value is blank. But the point is that this is just like any other data control that has a get value and a set value method. So this is custom controls, which is again a very powerful feature for building controls or building control libraries that you can then reuse at any point in time in your development. So
Very
next, I'd like,
cool. Can I just a quick question on custom
yeah.
controls? Can you put them into some sort of library or reuse them or trade them, or what can you do with them after you've created it besides use it in that one UX?
No, you can use it in any UX, not just that
Oh,
one UX. So
oh,
basically,
okay.
if I go back and create a brand new UX component,
Hmm.
and then I go to add controls, it's just like any other control. So I go to
Wonderful.
dev, and there it is, basically. So
And are they available to all workspaces? Are they available to,
I believe they're available to all workspaces. So
okay.
let
Yeah.
me just quickly confirm that, because I don't want to say yes. So let's
Okay.
go here and create a new project, and I'll go there and say, I think it's all projects, not all workspaces. So
I
if I
see.
go there and say new now, and then go here and say add. Yeah, so they're available to all projects,
Cool.
not all workspaces.
Now,
They
if you,
might be available to all workspaces. I'm just not positive about that.
okay.
So let's go back to where we were. So I'm going to go back to this project over there and take a look at the PDF viewer. So
Yes.
here I've got a UX component that is going to print a report, and it's going to print the report as PDF. But you can see that we've got to use this new property here called display the PDF using the PDF viewer control. So if I go now and let's go into working preview, and then click the button. So this up comes the PDF viewer control right now. And there's my PDF over there, and I can go here and zoom it out, etc. So this is the PDF viewer control is the reason that it's really great to have this control is that on mobile devices, the built-in browsers on mobile devices don't all support built-in PDF viewing, but the PDF viewer can be used in mobile applications and also desktop applications as well as a replacement for the built-in PDF viewer in browsers. We've spoken about SQLite incremental refresh, and so next I'd like to demo advanced image styling. So I'm going to go and close this down now. But I should also mention that the PDF viewer control can be used not just for displaying reports, but if I go to other controls, and it's one of the available controls, so I can just stick a PDF viewer control on the UX component and then specify the name of the PDF. So if you want to build applications that just simply display PDFs, you can use the PDF viewer control, and you can display any PDF in your application. So it's a really nice control for making PDFs available in web applications. So let's go talk about the advanced image control. So I'll go back there and I'll go here and type in. So the motivation for this feature was basically this component here, which Bob Moore designed. So this was in part of a tutorial where we took a lesson that a tutorial that Apple wrote for learning Xcode, for writing native app development. And we took the exact same app that they teach you to build using Xcode, and we did it using Alpha Anywhere. But in their app, they basically display an image with a rounded border like this and a shadow around it on top of the map and on top of some data over there. So this was now done using, if I go here to this image, you can see that we have a property here called advanced image display, and you can specify that the image should be cropped and that the crop style should be a circle and that the size should be 200 pixels, etc., that it has a border and the border size is 5 pixels and that it has a shadow, etc. So this is just built in, and without having to write any code, you can now easily create these highly stylized, cropped images. Next, what I want to talk about is how you can publish with a single click to static HTML pages to the cloud. So let's go here and look at a sample component that we created. So let's go back to the control panel. And I'll go here to, so here's a demo app that we built by just choosing the, if I go here, you can see if I go to this controls, this was created by just choosing one of the sample apps we have here. We have this Amazon lookalike shopping app. So I'm going to just go and run it now in working preview. And now let's say that I have a client or a customer or somebody that I'm describing this app to, and I want them to see what the user interface on this app looks like. So all I need to do at this point is go to menu, static HTML, and basically say create a static HTML file. And then when you're done, I'd like to upload it to S3 and then open it in the browser. So this is going to automatically upload this file to an S3 bucket. We're going to use not a private S3 bucket, but the Alpha Software a shared bucket. So you can either use your own connection string, or you can use the shared buckets. I'll go ahead there and click OK. So it's now going to build this as a static HTML page and then upload it to S3. And now here it is running on S3. So I can take this URL now and give this to anybody and see the app running. So I can get a complete view of the user interface of this application. So that's a really nice way of creating static HTML pages that can be shared. And finally, I'd like to, well, not finally, but I'd like to also talk about the SQL data editor. So let's go back to Alpha right now. And I'll close this down. Go to the, let's go to window to the, oops, close down more than I wanted. So there's my SQL data editor. And so what this lets me do is view and edit the data in any SQL backend, SQL database and table. So I go there, I can choose my connection string. So for example, let's go here and choose Mariah Test. Then I can choose any of the tables in that database. So I can go there, for example, and see what this contracted table has. And then there are the rows and the data. So let's go back to Northwind and then choose a table from Northwind. So we'll go to, say, order details. And then here is the first page. And then we can go to any page of data, double click on a row, change the quantity to, say, 23, click save. The data is now saved in the database. I can go here and choose which columns I'd like to display. I can resize these columns. It's remembered, so if I go now to customers and then come back to order details, it's remembered both the columns and the size of the columns. So this is a generic editor for any backend SQL table. And our goal is to turn this into a web component so that developers can add a generic component for performing CRUD operations on any SQL table to their web applications. So there's a lot going on in this component here. So for example, if I go here to customers, and then I can go to say, and type in say London, and then hit query, you can see we just now have filtered on London. And if we say, show me the query that you actually did, it basically did a query on the city is equal to London, and it searched in not just the city field, it searched in all of the character fields. So it did a wildcard search. I could limit it to particular columns if I wanted. So I could say, no, I want you to only search in the city column, and then execute that query. And you can see now we just are only searching in the city column over there. So this is a very powerful generic tool for editing data in a SQL database. And as I say, our goal is to bring this to the web as well, so that you can add a similar type of control into your own web applications. Then I'd like to also talk about the flared style. So if we go look here at this component, and if we look at this panel navigator, we can see that we're using a tab band, and that we're using a sub theme of flared. So you can see there's the normal style there, and then flared. So let's first take a look at what the normal style looks like. So if we run this, we see panel card 1, panel card 2, and panel card 3 using a tab band. But if we go back here and we change from base to flared, we get this much more attractive style for the tabs. And of course, that works with different themes. So if we go to, for example, our dark rose theme, and then run this, you'll see that we get really nice looking tab controls using this theme. And then the last thing that I'd like to talk about, which again is going to be part of the next release, which hopefully will be either later this week or early next week, is our Python integration. So let's go here and type in Python, and I'll talk about why we're doing this. So as everybody who's used Alpha knows, the way in which you write server-side code in Alpha is using XBasic. And the way in which you write client-side code is using JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is a standard, and as much as it pains me to say this, XBasic is not a standard. And so there are developers out there who don't want to learn XBasic and would rather basically focus on writing their server-side code using, say, Python, which is an incredibly popular language for writing server-side code. So in this example, I'm going to just go ahead and run this here. So I'm going to make an AJAX callback, and you can see here that this AJAX callback is being handled by Python. So if we go and we look at the code here, we can see that here's our button, which is making an XBasic AJAX callback to a function called XB. But if we look inside XB, we see that there's really nothing in XB. The most important part is that it's calling into a Python module called myPython, and it's running a function called myfunc. So let's go now into the all files tab there, and then go into Python. You can see there's my Python module. I'm going to right click and say edit. So here is, I've opened up Visual Studio Code here, and I've got here a Python module. And the thing that's really interesting about this Python module is that you can see that inside the Python module, we've got full access to any XBasic function over here. So what we're doing is if we go back and look at this running code, when we run it, and we click this button, we see my name is Fred, followed by these random characters there. So if we look at our Python code, there you can see my name is, and then we basically read e.data submitted. We have access to the whole E object that you would have in your XBasic functions is available in your Python code. Then you can see we're calling an XBasic function called ranstring. Then what we're also doing is we have access to alpha DAO. So normally when you write Python code, you have to go and import a special module from Python to access SQL databases. But Alpha has this really strong, powerful Alpha DAO object for accessing SQL databases. And I'm using that in my Python code here. I'm doing a select from the customer table in Northwinds, and then I'm setting a session variable. So let's go ahead now and look at this. So we basically click this button now to execute our Ajax callback. And now we're going to read the value of a session variable. And you can see we've read the value of the session variable and used that data to populate this list. So what this is demonstrating is that your Python code has, just like your XBasic code, has access to the E object and has access to request variables and session variables. The same thing is true of your Python code. So your Python code has access to the E object, to session and request, and your Python code can set the value in session variables and can access all of the, can access any XBasic function and can access XBasic or Alpha Anywhere objects like Alpha DAO, etc. So the ability to use Python in your server-side code is, I think, a huge development for Alpha developers, in large part because there are thousands of pre-built Python modules that do all sorts of interesting things that you can now easily incorporate into your applications. So that, I think, is the end of the formal part of my presentation, where I've done this tour, this random tour of some of the new features. By no means this is all of the new features, but I'd like to stop now and let you guys ask any questions that you'd like.
Awesome. And boy, do we have questions. So let's start right at the beginning. First of all, do you have access to state variables when you're doing Python?
You have access to everything.
Okay.
So anything that you would have had in your XBasic event handlers will be available in your Python event handlers, basically. And what I haven't demonstrated, but what we will be adding, is the ability to also debug into your Python code as well as when it's running. So,
Cool.
so
Awesome.
okay.
Next up is, so I noticed when you went to edit the Python module, it automatically opened up Visual Studio, which a lot of people love using as their code editor. It's a really good one. But someone asked, you have to use Visual Studio
No,
to
you can
write your
use
code.
anything because it's just
Okay.
it's just a text file. So if
Yeah.
I were to go here and into Python, this is just a text file. So I just happen to have associated Visual Studio Code with the .py extension, but you can
So
use anything. So I can go here and
if you're
say
using BBEdit, if you're using whatever you like, you can associate with that.
anything you
Okay.
want,
Yeah.
anything
Great.
you want, right?
Superb. Someone asked if we have plans to support C#. I'm going to say probably not at this time for writing server-side code.
Well, basically, the answer to that is that you can you can call into .NET from your XBasic code. So if you use C# and you write an assembly, you can then call into it, but you don't end up with the same environment. You don't get access to Alpha DAO objects. You don't get access to the E object like you do in XBasic. You don't get access to session variables, etc. So quite as smooth as Python it would be.
Excellent. Let me go through other questions about your presentation, and then I've got a couple other general Alpha Anywhere questions, which we'll get to after. So the one about the flared tabs, do you know how to change the colors of the flared tabs, how you go about and edit that?
Um, I I would say I do,
Oh,
but
I put you on the spot. All right.
is basically the flare tabs are just defined in the style sheet. So
Right.
you can open up the style sheet builder, and I believe that there are presentations coming up on theming.
There,
And so
there is one. I believe it's
and,
on
and so
Wednesday or
you
Thursday.
can
Yeah.
easily go there and create your own theme. But I believe that what you can probably also do, and let me just see if I can quickly demo this. Is
Huh?
um, um, where did I do it? I'm trying to find where I did that.
Yeah. Where was that example?
Yeah, okay, let me just get rid of that.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, flared tabs, there we go. So right now the flared tabs are inheriting the colors from the current theme, basically. Okay, over there like that, right?
Mhm.
But you can go in Alpha, you can go to properties, and then you can go to, you can create your own sub theme. So let's go here and add a sub theme. And I'll create a new sub theme called Flared 2 that is based on Flared.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, go there and call it Flared 2. And then over here, so this is the definition of that flared subtheme. So I can just go here and change any one of these classes to be something else and then define that class over there. So that would let me create a new subtheme called, say, flared 2 that had different colors. It didn't necessarily inherit from the theme, etc. So
Mhm.
there's a huge amount of flexibility in the ability to create your own subthemes. So if I created my own subtheme called flared 2, which I've just done here, but I haven't done any customization on it, is when I go now to my controls and I go there and I say flared. I didn't, because I don't think I saved it, but I would have had flared and then flared 2 as well would have been available as the sub theme.
Cool. Another question has to do with Node.js. Are we going to continue to build integration with Node.js, or are we
Yes. Now
okay?
we are very we use Node.js internally for a
Uh-huh.
lot of the functionality in Alpha, and when we get to the roadmap session on Friday, we're going to be demoing some very tight integration with MongoDB and also with Google Firestore, and that's all built on top of Node. So Node and Python are both really important to us. We just feel that Python is a little easier to use than Node
Mhm.
because, like XBasic, Python is synchronous, and Node programming can be quite challenging for many people because everything is asynchronous, and so everything is done with callbacks. And so Python programming is much easier to understand in many ways because it is synchronous. But we are still definitely pushing forward with Node as well.
Very cool. Thank you. Earlier in the presentation, you were giving a demonstration using format directives. I think you were using a score as an example.
Yeah.
Can you show how to get into those formatting directives again? In other words, how do you get there in the IDE?
Yep, sure. So let's go here to project properties and then scroll down to format directives. And there we go. So you can create a new one. So let's go here and add a new one. So add, and I can go there and call it, say, directive 2. and then I can just load some sample code. But let's just say that this directive always is return hello. So this is a pretty stupid directive that just always says hello. And this is called directive 2. So if I go back to my list now, let's just go and make a list. And then go to list now and create some sample data. So I'll just use and go to the layout. So right now it's going to display the actual data in the list, you know, first name, last name, etc. Okay, but now let's go back into the list and go to the layout and go to say last name, and then go to the template, put my cursor over there and say insert formatting directive, choose custom, and there's directive 2. So I'm going to say last name should be displayed using directive 2, which we defined as a really, you know, brain dead directive that just says the word hello. So that should now turn that column into just hello, if all goes well. There you go.
All right. Very cool.
So basically, format directives are a property of a project.
Gotcha. Next question. You were talking about column widths, and the question was, can you programmatically set the width of a column during runtime?
Yes, you can. So basically, all of the properties of a list are available through JavaScript, and then you can go and then you can set a property, and then you can do a refresh of the list. So I'm going to just quickly go here to the Chrome debugger and take a look at this list over there. So if I go there in the Chrome debugger and I say var l obj is equal to that. So now L obj. So now I have a pointer to that list control. And if I go now to the layouts property, so there's the layouts property. So right now this list only has one layout called default. So there's the default property, and there's the columns over there, and there's the columns. Here's all the data about the columns. So I can use JavaScript to set any one of these properties over here, and then after I've set them, if I do a lobj.refresh, the list will redraw using those new values in those properties. So every property of the list can be controlled through JavaScript.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Let's see. Next question. In a list control, there is a field, well, kind of a field called the logical row number. The question is it possible to capture that logical row number and put it into a database field?
I believe the answer would be yes, because the logical row number is accessible. So let's just go there
and also, while you're at it, could you define the logical row number for the rest of the group that hasn't seen it
so if
before?
I say underbar data, so this is the data that's currently in this list control over there. And if I expand this array and I look at it, you can see that there is the fields that are in this list are city, first name, last name, and state. So these are the fields that are in my data. And then there are a bunch of fields that start with an asterisk. These are fields that the list itself added. So because we didn't define the return value of this list to be, say, either first name or last name, it's specifying all of the data as the return value. And then star render index is the row number. So that's the same thing as the logical row number. So
I see. Okay. Great.
And so if I were to look at, say, so that's so the lists are all 0 based. So 0 is the first row, and then if we go to say 1, there you can see it says star key and star render index is 1. So this is actually the second physical row in the list.
Excellent. Let's see what else we've got here for questions. Well, this is a tricky one. Is it possible to compute the height of all the records in a list and set the height of the list to that height?
So basically, by default, lists have a fixed height, and then they scroll vertically within that height.
Mhm.
But if you turn off the height property, then the list will normally expand. If I go here and turn off the height property, then the list will render showing all of the data. So if I go there now, so you can see now the list has expanded to show
I
all of the
see.
data, and there's no scrolling.
So
And
if you omit the width, it'll expand
if you
to
omit
take
the
up the
height,
size it needs. Yeah, the
if you
height,
omit
sorry,
the
yeah.
height, it'll
Mhm.
go to the full height. But the actual property, that you can change the height of the list programmatically as well. So if I were to go to the Chrome debugger and then just look at this list, I should be able to get a pointer. Here we go. So there's the list control over there. I should be able to get a pointer to that list, and using JavaScript change the height. So you can see if I were to go there now and just add a new property. You can see I've just gone ahead and changed the list now to be 2 inches. And then I
Mhm.
would need, in order to get my vertical scroll bar, I would need to get a pointer to the list and then do a refresh on the list. So you can pretty much, once you understand how to use the Chrome debugger and how to poke around in the code here, and also understand that the list is just an object that has properties that you can set using JavaScript. It really opens up a whole world of customization that you can add to your UX components.
So speaking of that, one of the properties that you might want to change at runtime is the name that appears in a tab of, say, of the new Flare tab control, for example. Like if you open up a tab that's a detailed record, maybe you want to have a customer's last name as the tab name. Is that, I'm sure you can do that in JavaScript using what you've just demonstrated here. Is there some easier way of doing that in Alpha Anywhere? Is there a
Well, I mean, it's sort of, like, for example, like a very common use case
Mhm.
of tabs is you have say a list control or a grid control inside a tabbed UI component.
Uh-huh.
And then the user taps on a row in the list or the grid, and that opens up a detailed view of that row in a new tab.
Right.
Um, and in Action JavaScript, when you define that action for that row, in many cases you can specify that the title on that tab should be picked up from data in the row that you tapped on, and
Oh, okay.
that can all be done through Action JavaScript. But of
Wonderful.
course, if you need to write your own JavaScript, it's also pretty easy to set one common technique is to set the HTML for the tab to be inside a span, and you give the span an ID, and then once you've got that ID, you can write any JavaScript to set the inner HTML of that span.
Ah, that makes sense. Yeah. Excellent. So we are out of time, and it looks like mostly out of questions. If folks have other questions they'd like to add, of course, you can send them to guides, GUI, DES at alphasoftware.com. Selwyn, thank you very much for presenting not all, just the selection of random things, I think is what you called it
Yeah.
from last year. Those are really, really cool features. And thanks very much for those who wrote in with comments and suggestions. I've taken them down here. So we will see you. Let me take a look what's next at the schedule. I believe it's app building. Yeah, it's the app building demo at 11:45. So we'll see you all back here in about 30 minutes. Thanks
Okay.
again.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.